My attempt today is to clarify the nature of Atman and how it relates to Brahman and how it relates to the confusion that arises over what people want to talk about in losing their self when they start on this spiritual path. They constantly live in fear that there is a self that is going to get lost, that is going to die at death, is going to die when they become spiritually aware, is going to cease to exist, is going to blend into the one God, deity, Brahman, Brahma, and that the individual self will cease to exist. The nature of Vedanta, Advaita, the nature of Advaita Vedanta has been misunderstood and improperly taught over the last several thousand years because people teaching it have never had a close relationship with God, with Brahma, the God that Jesus prayed to. They've never had a close relationship with Jesus, the Christ. They've never had anything like that. So when they are trying to define something that they have no experience in, they misinterpret it. That's a kind way of expressing what is common and what is being taught and has been being taught by not only intellectuals, but gurus and other spiritual teachers, Hinduism, every line of thinking that goes along the line of spiritual teachings of Eastern philosophy, all have been misunderstood because the number one reason is they do not have a close relationship with God. So, is it through ignorance? Yes. Is it through willful ignorance? Yes. But it's also, in addition to that, a false teaching by demonic sources that want to gaslight, if you will, the innocent people who actually do love God, in a sense that they don't even know who God is or what God is, but they still feel a compassion of love for this unknown deity that they feel like there should exist. And so since they are lacking concrete evidence of this God, which everyone does initially, they are easily targeted by the ignorant fools that propagate the false teachings of non-duality and the false teachings that there will be no self when you are finally made or become enlightened, or when you finally understand reality as the greatest gurus that have ever lived, or as Krishna assumingly taught. But I'm going to try to clarify what the truth really is. And if you have questions about it, you're more than welcome to write those questions to me, and I will do my best to answer them to clarify what I'm talking about. So there's so I'm going to try to use Hindu names and definitions, but I'm always going to convert it to things that you and I understand. When I say you and I mean from Western society, Western teachings, Christianity, that sort of thing. But Hindus will understand. When I say Hindus, people from India and stuff, they will crystal clear understand what I'm talking about. And I would like to say from Western teaching or Christianity-based understandings, those people will understand too, but they are not interested in the things that I teach. They are not interested in Eastern philosophy, the things that Buddha taught, Krishna and all that stuff. They're not interested in that until they come to the point in their reality and discover that what they have learned over the past 20, 30, 40 years or more isn't fulfilling enough for them. They want more than what they can find. Then they start searching outside the cloistered box of organized religion, and they almost always gravitate towards India for spiritual understandings and stuff, because for whatever reason, India has maintained a hundreds of thousands of years of continuity in spiritual awareness. When I say maintained, that isn't really true, but it is true in a sense that there is written from the Sanskrit written writings that would indicate that hundreds of thousands of years ago there were people who were in close relationship with God, to the point that they were extremely knowledgeable about what reality truly is. And that has been handed down, but without having experiential knowledge, because now we're in the Kali Yuga and it's incredibly difficult to get that experiential knowledge. They have also lost contact with the tangible evidence of a God, and so they've followed the teachings more so to Buddha, which doesn't really talk about God so much. Not that he denies God, it's just that he doesn't talk about it much, and so forth. And it goes all the way back through the teachings of Krishna too. Same type thing. So I'm going to lay it out the way it's taught throughout the world predominantly. And then I'm going to argue against the false teachings with what I feel like would be irrefutable common sense, irrefutable. If you access your intuition and your spiritual self, you will confirm that what I'm telling you is true, even without any evidence. That you'll actually have to go to God on your own to verify the evidence. But at least it'll make sense to you, is what I'm attempting to do today. Hopefully my batteries don't run dry. No, they seem to be okay. So, what is predominantly taught in the Atman and Jiva Atman and all of that kind of stuff, and what is taught is actually there is no you, there is no self, there is no I, because what you are is a fragment of God. And I can't say fragment necessarily, but it's like some people have defined it as light coming from the sun and going through a prism and being separated into different light. And so maybe the purple would say, wow, I'm beautiful because I'm purple. There is no I in purple because it is all the sun. Does that make sense? It's all the light from the sun. So there is no separate I. It's just a confusion on the part of the light that happens to be purple is looking at itself and saying, hey, I'm purple, I exist, and because I'm purple, I'm royal and I'm better than everybody else and stuff like that. But there is no such thing as purple, because purple is just a derivative of the actual sunlight. There is no separate I in purple. That's what's taught. It isn't true, but that's what's taught. The reason it's taught that way is because the purples and the reds and the greens and the yellows, all of these colors don't have any experiential knowledge of the sun. They don't have the experiential knowledge. And so the gurus that teach this stuff, they also have no experiential knowledge of the sun. They're only going by what they have been taught by their guru and their guru's guru, and back to Adi Shankara or all the way back to Buddha or whatever. It's the same ignoramus teaching or false teaching that there is no I. So let me explain it in such a way that hopefully it will make sense. So Advaita says not two. And so if you have a number 2, for instance, is my 2 backwards? Because it's forward to me. Anyways, so you're looking at a number 2. And this is what Advaita is trying to express, but since there's no experiential teachers, and there hasn't been for thousands of years, there's no experiential teachers teaching you what the truth really is. They're just going by what their common sense tells them. They're going by what has been taught for thousands of years. And it sounds correct. It just simply isn't correct. So in Advaita, if there is a number 2, for instance, and the original teacher that understood the Vedas, when that individual said, and when you're looking at the 2, you're looking at the 2, I'm looking at the 2, everyone is looking at the 2. Now the 2 represents infinity. The 2 represents all Atmans, including Brahma, including Shiva, including Vishnu, including yourself, including all awarenesses, including all Atmans, including all. We're not back to Brahman yet. We're only talking about all the Atman. From that standpoint, all of that represents 2. It could be infinity, but for the sake of trying to simplify things, it's 2. So you're looking at the 2, and the original person that taught Advaita is trying to teach his congregation, and they're looking at the 2. And he says, the best way to define it is it's not 2. Not 2. And so everyone goes from there and assumes, Well, then it must be one. Because if you take the one and you pull it back to Brahman, then they're saying it's all one because it's from the same source. This isn't true, and you're getting ahead of yourself if that's what you think or believe. So if you take the number 2 and you say it's not 2, then what is it? If it's not 2, then what is it? It's true that it isn't 2, because there is no such thing as a 2. Think about it logically. There's no such thing as a 2. 2 represents 2 ones, a 1 and a 1. When there's a 1, there is no other. There's just 1. But when you add another 1, then you have 2. But in reality and philosophically and deep thinking says there's no such thing as 2. All you have are 2 ones, and then we call them 2. But there's no such thing as 2. There is only ones, and there's an infinite number of ones. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. So let's take it from that point. Recognize that yourself at your core essence is a 1. My core essence is a 1. Jesus' core essence is a 1. Krishna, 1. Buddha, 1. Shiva, 1. Satan, 1. Brahma, 1. Not 2, not infinity, 1. But you see how when I said 1, there's an infinite number of ones? When I say 1, that doesn't mean there is only 1, therefore you don't exist. Your I doesn't exist. Of course your I exists. It is a 1. How, and this is how they say you're like God or you're equal to God. If God is a 1, not if, I'm going to erase that if. God is a 1. You are a 1. 1 is not greater than 1. 1 is not lesser than 1. 1 is 1. If you have a 1 here and a 1 here, they're equal with each other. This is how the teachings come through, where you are the same as God. Which is, if you can say, well, Jesus is a God, if you can say that, or let's say his Father in heaven is a God, or let's say Brahma is God. That means you're God. That doesn't mean you're the God that Brahma is, but you are God. If Brahma's God, you're God. If Brahma's Brahma, you're Brahma. If you're whatever you are, then God is that. Now let's take this universe. Now let's take this reality. Let's take this planet where there are billions of human beings with independent Atman. The overriding creation that has allowed several billion to coexist on a single planet where we are aware of each other to a certain degree, the creator of this reality is Brahma. Then, when I say this reality, the entire universe. I'm waving my hands all over, trying to animate so that hopefully it makes more sense to you. My wife says don't do that, but I'm sorry. I'm all over the place. Commercial over. So when you take this physical planet with several billion people, the creator of this is Brahma. And since the creator of this is Brahma, and since my physical human body is in this reality, then my physical body is Brahma. Whatever goes through my mind is Brahma. When I suffer, Brahma suffers. Now that doesn't mean there isn't a Brahma that is separate from myself, meaning a conscious Brahma that is able to see the suffering here, but actually not be the suffering here. So God can be in more than one place at one time, and see this. I'm getting complicated here, and I don't. It's not easy to explain these things. So this is why Brahma knows what you're thinking. This is why Brahma knows you intimately, because Brahma is you. That doesn't mean you are Brahma, though, because you didn't create a reality like Brahma did. You didn't create a reality where you've invited several billion consciousnesses to coexist with you. You didn't do that. Brahma did. And you accepted that invitation into this particular reality. Now, that's not to say you can't do the same thing as Brahma. You just simply can't do it right now, apparently. Otherwise, you would be doing it. Isn't it so that if you have a dream at night and there's all kinds of people in your dream and you wake up in the morning, what part of that was not you? All parts were you. You played all roles. There were cops and robbers and horses and dogs. You were everything. You were the mountains. You were the roads. You were the sunlight. Everything that existed in your dream, you were it. And you didn't know you were it. It's still, when you wake up in the morning, you don't realize you are it. So now I'm going to jump fast forward for a second and get to the point where people have written to me and they say, well, I fear that if I die, I'll lose myself, or this or that. But you haven't identified what yourself is. What is yourself? Before you can express a fear of losing yourself, don't you think it's wise to identify what the self is? Well, you can say, well, I'm this. This is what I am. I'm my awareness. I'm me. I'm John. I'm this. I'm that. No, you're not. You're not this. I'm here to tell you that. Because tomorrow, whatever this isn't going to exist. You're going to be tomorrow what you are tomorrow. You're still not you're not the same baby that was laying in a crib. You're something else now. When you go to bed, do you fear waking up in the morning? Oh my God, I'm not what I was yesterday. You're every second, every picosecond. If you assume you're this, then it changes an infinite number of times in an infinitely small fraction of a second. Anything that can physically change isn't real. It's an illusion. The you I'm speaking about that is totally misunderstood by the teachers of Vedanta, by the teachers of Advaita, by literally all of them, which is totally misunderstood. Let me express it even deeper. It is so disgustingly horrible. It's gaslighting. It's evil. It's stupid. It's moronic. It's horrible. It's disgustingly distasteful. The false teaching that there's no you. Let's put it this way. There is a you. We don't know what the hell that you is, but there is a you. And whatever it is that you are in your essence core, it is apparently so damned valuable that Brahma created this reality for you to coexist within his creation. You, in Christianity, is taught that you, whatever the you is so damned valuable that he chose to die on a cross to atone for your sins. You don't even have to know what sins are. It doesn't matter. You can say sins don't exist. I don't give a damn. It doesn't matter. What does matter is that that person of Jesus thought it was so valuable to sacrifice his life for the teachings that you have value. That you are so valuable and so loved by this Jesus that he gave his life for you. Regardless of what you think, regardless of what you're aware of, regardless of any of the teachings, it doesn't matter. What does matter is he was aware enough of the essence of your soul, your essence, the core awareness, the Atman, that he felt it valuable enough for him to sacrifice his life for you. And he did it because he was following the teachings of his father, meaning Brahma. So Brahma counts you so valuable at your core essence that he created everything. What does he think of you? What in the heck are you at your core essence? You are the seed of love. You are the potential of being equal with Brahma. When I say potential, God doesn't know what you are because you are nothing yet. When I say yet, you never will be anything other than nothing. But that doesn't mean the same thing that you think it means. Because when we talk about, when I say we, the enlightened gurus that do know what we're talking about, when we say nothing, we're referring to Brahman. Where Advaita says not two. And it's not one. It's infinity. And in this infinity Brahman, it's not two. It's infinity. You can't identify infinity. Think about that. You can't identify infinity. Your brain cannot conceive of infinity. Your brain is incapable of conceiving of infinity. So why does the word exist, infinity? Why does the concept of infinity even exist? How did the concept of infinity come into existence when you know you can't conceive of it? Because someone that could conceive of infinity coined the term. Infinity is a best word rather than not two. So the disgusting, horrible, deceitful teachings that you will cease to exist when you become fully enlightened and fully aware, and then you blend back into the full nature of Brahma, into Brahman, and then you will cease to exist because that is deceitful. That is evil teaching. That is totally lacking any love and any compassion. Because it isn't true. You eternally exist. You can never be extinguished. If you choose to follow Satan, if you choose to follow the path eternally of evil, meaning greed, hatefulness, deceitfulness, deceptiveness, taking advantage of one another, and you don't repent and never change, then yes, you will revert the Brahman. But that doesn't mean you cease to exist. All that means is you lose everything you created for yourself in this reality. When I say created for yourself, meaning whatever the self is, whatever the self is associated with. When I say, who am I? Or if I say, oh, I am John, I'm looking at it and saying it differently than you are. I'm saying because what I appear to be right now in this physical body and the way I'm communicating with you right now and all of my knowledge and awareness and enlightenment and anything and everything that I'm bringing to the table with you right now for this very moment in time, that is like the light shining through the prism and turning into purple. Everything that I'm expressing to you right now, this is who I am. I recognize that I am the purple light. I recognize that. I know that I'm all the colors of the light. I don't know what those other colors right now are. I don't know. All I know is that right now I'm purple. And I know the source is the essence, the Atman. I know what the source is. When I say I know what the source is, I don't know the source in its entirety because it hasn't created itself. It hasn't blossomed into the eternal whatever it is. It isn't developed as far as Brahma is. It doesn't matter. I know what the self is to the extent of what it is right now. I know that it's more than the purple color. I know that. When I die, I don't fear losing the color purple. Maybe I appear red in the next life. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. I know that the spirit that draws back from the purple, from the red, from the yellow, the spirit that goes back to the soul and goes beyond the soul to the essence, that spirit is the spirit of love. That I know. That's something that you should cultivate. You should cultivate love because it is an aspect that is able to be developed in yourself. You can develop greed and you can develop all these things, but they are not eternal. They will cease to exist eventually when the kalpa of time is over. But the concept of love is eternal. Love manifests in so many ways. When you love your fellow person, when you're kind to each other, when you're nice to animals, this, that. Love can be defined in many, many, many ways. But the concept of love, or what it represents, that is eternal. It shall never be lost. If you have love, the most important thing that Jesus taught, the most important, if you boil down everything that he taught into, like for instance, in Hinduism, they boil it down and say Advaita Vedanta. That's what they boil it down to. If you were to boil down the teachings of Jesus, it would be love yourself, your neighbor, and God. Love, love, love. That's what he taught. That's an eternal concept to work on, to develop. It is the reason, the love of what is in your heart and soul is the reason God, Brahma, created this reality. Now, yes, we can talk about Satan, we can talk about demons, we can talk about that this reality is the reality of Satan, Shiva, and that it's evil and all the stuff. Yeah, we can talk about that too, maybe in another video. And it is real, by the way. And in fact, we are living on a planet that is utterly controlled by demonic forces. But you don't have to fall in the trap of those teachings. Those teachings teach that you will cease to exist when you become enlightened, that you will cease to exist and blend into the oneness of Brahma. It isn't so. You already are one with Brahma. You are already, let me back that up, because I'm constantly saying to become one with God. You are one with God from God's perspective, not from your perspective. I wanted to make that clear. From God's perspective coming toward you, you are one with God in that way. But you are not one with God in the direction that you reach out and grab God. It's like so you know how when you're rescuing somebody, you grab them by the arm and they grab you by the arm. Okay? That is a true oneness. That is a true oneness that I'm talking about. But when one hand is like this, God's got a hold of you. That's the oneness that God has with you. That's the oneness that I'm talking about all the time. When you become one with God. I hope I've made myself clear. I want to dispel the concept that you will cease to exist. That the core essence of what you are disappears when you become one with God. That when you become aware of what your true nature is and all these things. No, you will not cease to exist. The number 2, looking at it, in Advaita says not to, doesn't mean that it's just the one. It means that not two. There's no such thing as two. There's a one and a one. There are an infinity ones. A one cannot be subdivided into a half, by the way. This particular reality division is infinite. But this reality is an illusion. That's the whole concept of enlightenment, Buddha enlightenment. The whole concept is you awaken. It's like you're slapped upside the face and it's like, it's like, my gosh. It's like, oh my gosh. Reality is an illusion. It doesn't really exist. That's the concept of enlightenment. You never, ever, 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 ever again look at reality as it being real. You never, 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 never again look at, oh my gosh, I fear death, I'm going to die. Because you know that there's nothing to die. Yeah, the physical body will die. Big deal. I'm not the physical body. I'm not the same when I go to bed at night and wake up the next morning. But I understand when I went through the process, it was super difficult. It was super long. Many years took place. The struggles I went through, and I had been on the spiritual path for 35 years. So yeah, I understand it's not easy. But I didn't have someone to talk to like myself today that is aware of these things. So maybe I can help you become enlightened faster. I don't know. But in closing, I will tell you the same thing Jesus did. I love you. I value you to the core of my essence. I know 100% for a surety that you and I are going to be aware of each other and have absolute love for one another, not in this life, but in an eternal perspective, beyond this illusion, we will coexist eternally with love. Because that's the only way. Love is like a magnet drawing people together. Without that magnetism, without that gravity, I don't even like to say, well, you could say gravity, but I don't like to say gravity because you could be up in the air and fall down and kill yourself. And it's like, well, you have free will. It's like, oh, I don't want to fall to the ground and kill myself. Well, it doesn't matter. Gravity's going to suck you down and kill you anyways. So I don't like to maybe use that term because it has to be equal on both sides. Love has to be equal. In other words, that's the ignorance of Satan. That's the ignorance of Shiva, that they don't understand the true nature of love. Love it has to be equal from both sides. Otherwise, there's no draw together. If you don't love me and I love you, we're still not going to be one. You know, that's the one thing that marriage between a husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, all of that kind of stuff, that's the one thing that is misunderstood so much of the time, especially by men. They don't understand that for a relationship to survive through difficult times, there has to be the ability, not the ability, the nature of both sides have to be co-equal. In other words, this person has to say, I love you, I would like to be with you for eternity, but if you don't want to be with me, I'm okay with that. You can leave. I will always love you, but you have the freedom to leave. Because in a perfect union or a perfect marriage, you have to have a draw towards each other through love over the good and bad both for all eternity. The satanic teaching or the Shiva teaching is more of a one-sided thing, you know, falsely teaching, in my opinion. For instance, Shiva could say, oh, I love you and I want you to be one with me. Well, I don't want to be one with you. Oh, well, then I'll curse you to hell and I'll break all your arms and I'll kill your children and blah, blah, blah. It's like, what a horrible person. True love doesn't desire harm to the other side no matter what. True love loves regardless of what the other person chooses. Now, is that to say that in a true love relationship, you get married, you commit to one another, and this one betrays that trust through sexual impropriety or whatever? Is it true love for that to happen and then this person comes back and says, oh, you said you'd never not love me, so you have to take me back? No, not necessarily. I mean, maybe they could, but there's nothing wrong with this person going, no, you betrayed me. Like maybe in another lifetime, but in this lifetime, no, you betrayed me. I'm not accepting you back. But I love you. I feel super sorry for you that you want to come back to me. I feel super sorry. I'm crying. I feel bad. But I'm not accepting you back in this lifetime. Maybe another lifetime, but not this one. You betrayed me. You betrayed my trust. There's nothing wrong with that. Because the love is still there. It's just that. But if you accept them back, that's fine too. But don't betray your partner. Never. Just don't do it. Never have that in your mind or thought, regardless. Don't betray your partner. I'm off on another tangent. I'm sorry. I'll end this talk again by saying I love you. I hope the best for you. I pray for you. I hope you understand this. If you don't, please email me. If you have questions, if I have the time, sometimes it takes me a week or so to get back to people. But I will answer you. I will do my best to help you understand. Give me some details of what you don't understand. And I'll fill in the gaps as best I can, using spiritual intuition as best I can. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye.